Hang on. Just kidding. That's the wrong one. Hey. Oh, sorry. I literally just got home like 2 minutes ago. Let me get things going in the chat. I got the link up there for you guys. I know you love to come on the show. I know you're super brave. One of these days, I'm going to get you guys to come on here. It's really not that bad. I promise. It's kind of nice when you have somebody else to talk to, but it's always there for you guys if you need it. If you want to talk about something, if you want to point out something that you've noticed with society as a whole, whatever you want to do, there's the link. And all you have to do is click on it. You can do it from a phone, from a computer, whatever. But, oh my gosh, I have been having so many phone problems today. I don't know if anybody else has like Spectrum Mobile, but it's been absolute garbage today. And I I generally have a lot of patience for things. You know, I did home daycare for 8 years, so that right there teaches you a lot of patience. But one thing I do not have patience for is electronics. Anything. If my computer is going a little slow, if my phone's not working right, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I am unhinged. And it's just been all day. You know, anytime I make a phone call or get a phone call, it's not like the person on the other end can't hear me. It's not sending text messages. It just randomly says, you have no network or you're not connected to a network or whatever. And my job is like 99.9% done on my phone. So it's been so annoying, so infuriating. Darren says hello. Hello, Darren. Um, Darren has been doing some awesome like painting stuff at Old Licking County Jail. Like, feel free to tell people about that in the comments. Is it something that's like open to the public or something like that that people can do? Let us know in the comments because that's a great way. I mean, first of all, you get to see the jail, which is beautiful, but then also a lot of people really like those painting things. I've never actually been to one. I did have a sign painting business for a while. You know, just one of my hyper fixations for a while. I did like I made a lot of things out of pallets and signs and things like that and sold them because my husband was going to be off of work for a while. And so I was trying to figure out a cheap way to make money, like something that didn't take like a big investment to get into. So I started making pallet signs, like, and ended up going to like craft fairs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I've done that, but I've never done like one of those like sip and paint things. They look really fun, and they actually have Bob Ross ones that you can go to where they will like basically they just like play a Bob Ross video and then like pause it when they get to each step so that people can have a chance to do it. Um, so those are pretty cool. Hey, Chris. Darren says, yes, I have an artist friend that is doing paint and sip events. We are having another one on Mother's Day. Nice. Yeah, that's fun. And that's, you know, moms like doing anything with their kids. So take your mom to go do that because it would be fun. Um, seriously, anything. Anytime obviously I spend a lot more time with my younger kids, but anytime my 19-year-old is like, "Hey mom, can you help me do this?" I'm like, "Yes." It's a stupid mundane task, but hey, he wants to spend time with me. So that would be a great way to spend Mother's Day. Darren said it's open to the public, so you guys should go. It's Haunted Old Licking County Jail, right? On Facebook. Can they find information on there? Look, I'm like instantly plugging other people's stuff. That's what I like doing though. Plus, I think it's a great idea. And it's just, we talk all the time about self-care, and that's a great way to take care of yourself and relax and just focus on something that's not work and not stress, and just enjoying the moment with some people that you care about for an hour or two, whatever. Um, those are really cool. And a friend of mine, Paul, who volunteers at the seminary, went to one of those things. And it turns out he's a phenomenal painter, like phenomenal. He's lived his whole life. He's older than me, lived his whole life, never knew he could paint. And now he's painting like these masterpieces because he went to one of those events and realized that he is Bob Ross and can paint like these amazing landscape things. So you never know. Maybe you'll go and you'll learn a new talent that you never knew you had. It doesn't hurt to try new things. My 19-year-old was stressing because he was 18 and didn't know who he was as a person. I'm like, dude, you're so young. And I'm not saying that like to be derogatory, because when you're a teenager, if anybody says you're young, then they take it as like an insult. But I said, you don't even know what's your favorite burner on the stove. Like you have so much to learn. I said, make a list of 12 different things that you've always wanted to try. It doesn't have to be like skydiving or bungee jumping or whatever. It could just be like, oh, I've always wanted to go to the art museum. I've always wanted to go to the science center. I've always wanted to try skateboarding, whatever. And just pick a day once a month, and try something new. I think that it's so important. Everybody gets so stuck in like, just going to work and paying bills and cleaning your house. And there's so many more important things out there. And I say it all the time, life is way too short to be anything but happy. Like, go and try new things. There's always, look at my friend Paul that I was just talking about. He just learned now that he loves painting. You never know when you're going to try something new and love it, and just find a new way to make yourself happy. And it doesn't have to be like something that everybody does. I, for one, love and going and doing investigations, paranormal investigations. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. I love to go to new buildings. I love to see the architecture. I love to take the history tours and learn all about the buildings and learn about how life was when the building was built, and see all of the things that building has been. It's just something that I love so much, and it's something that I didn't learn about until like 5 years ago when I went to the seminary, and now I volunteer there. And a lot of people think it's weird. I get that. But my happiness doesn't depend on other people, so I really don't care. But it's just cool that now my kids and I, because my kids are there with me all the time, now like in 100 years when they're telling the history of the building, like we're part of that history. And Darren, I'm sure you can appreciate this because of what you do for Old Licking. But wait, hang on. By the way, I hate allergies so much. It snowed today. I don't understand how. Anyways, I love that, you know, when they write down the history of the building, we're a part of that. Um, it's just so cool. And a lot of people would be like, that's a really dumb thing to be proud of or to even think about, but it makes me happy. So it's really none of your business in a nice way. Um, and that's what I think people need to understand. Like, you don't have to have the approval of anybody. Anybody. Um, I do care what my husband thinks, and that's pretty much it. Because at the end of the day, we're in this together, him and I. And, if he's not happy with me, then that's a different story. But anybody else, I literally don't care. And, we kind of have a relationship where it's like, if either one of us has something that makes us happy, we fully support it because you should. And we don't get to do a lot of things together, but at the same time, we're very different people and we have different interests anyways, but also like our kids are younger. And so it's not as easy for us to, go away for a weekend or go do something together. So instead of both of us being at home and miserable, we just take turns going and doing something. Um, because first of all, neither one of us have a problem like, oh no, I can't be home with the kids for a weekend. Like, it's fine. We're both fine. Um, and we just realized that having something that makes you happy and being able to do those things, no matter what they are, it actually makes you a better parent. Some people might think that, you know, and obviously it's like everything else, within moderation. We're not going out every weekend and doing things, but when we do get a chance to get away for a weekend or whatever, it just makes us so much happier. And it does make you a better parent. I know that sounds crazy, but going away and taking a break and doing something that makes you happy instead of constantly focusing on, your kids in the house and your spouse and whatever. Just taking that break and letting yourself be happy and not having to cut anybody's food or get anybody's drinks or, whatever. It's just so good for you. So find a hobby and take a break. And taking a break does not make you a bad parent. It actually makes you a better parent because you listen, if you're a crabby asshole all the time because you never get a break and you're so stressed and all you do is work and come home and clean and whatever, then you're going to be crabby. Your kids don't want crabby parents, right? Your spouse doesn't want a crabby spouse. Nobody wants you to be miserable in your own life. You should be taking a break and doing what makes you happy. Chris says he does paint by numbers, very good for stress relief. Chris, there's also diamond painting. I know a lot of people that do those. It's like paint by number, but with little teeny tiny diamonds that you somehow, I don't even know how, put onto the paper. And then once it's done, then it makes like this picture. I don't have the patience for that. I'm going to be 100% honest. I would, no, I would probably like flip the table. I don't have that kind of patience. That's not me. I could sit there and do a lot of different things. That is not one of them. Darren said, yes, I'll share the post when she puts it up. It's $40 per person, $25 deposit, and $15 a day of the event. The jail gets the $15. The $25 covers the canvas material and snacks, and it's BYOB. So that's cool. That's fun. And it's on Mother's Day. So if you don't feel like spending $40 on your mother is appropriate, then you got other issues. But $40 is a great place or a great price to spend a day with your moms. Darren said it is cool. We are totally part of the buildings. If we don't do what we do, nobody would know the history of these buildings, and these buildings wouldn't be here. Absolutely. Um, Darren and I know we've talked about this before. Darren and I share the same sentiment. Anything, any building that's in sepia tone pictures, we should be doing whatever we can to preserve it. And yes, you can go and Google stories about these buildings, but it's something totally different, and it's so much more meaningful when you get to go and you get to stand in the hallways and you get to, in Darren's case, you get to see the jail cell where the story took place. It's so much cooler. It's so much cooler than reading about history. And there's so many people, even in Madison, people who live in this town their whole lives that don't even know about the building, and they don't know the history of it, and they don't, you know, they just it's not something they teach in schools, right? So it's cool that we get to be the ones who keep the history going and tell people about it and spread the word and, help with the preservation. It's such a cool hobby. Um, and Darren is absolutely the best tour guide ever, right, Darren? Sorry, opening my drink. Darren's been on a couple of my tours, and then I was going to Old Licking, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to give you a tour now?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure it'll be the best." And it was, of course. It's always better when the people are very passionate about the building. See, Darren said, "No, you are." Must be the last name, Darren. Smith just means you're great at tours. But yeah, I mean, I hope, like, obviously we know, Darren, your hobbies are they line up pretty much with mine, but um there's a lot of things that people just don't even know that you could do. What was my favorite? Okay, a couple years ago, I went to Lakeland Community College, which is out here, and I took a master gardener's class. Okay, it's something that's put on by like the Ohio State extensions or whatever. And it's literally just like it was a whole day, and you got to pick like four different classes or like lectures that you would take, and there was like a raffle and there was free lunch, and it was this whole big thing. And so I picked out like different classes. Like one was on food preservation, one was on like I think one was on fruit trees, and they just had all these different classes, and it was all taught by master gardeners. And I am not even kidding, because I took this class like I would say probably at least 10 years ago. And I'm sitting there like in my 20s, and every other person there is like old enough to be not just my mom, but my grandma. Okay. Like everybody was at least double my age. And who cares? I had such a good time. I had such an amazing time. And I'm like, okay, I'm sitting in a lecture, and this woman in front of me literally pulls out her purse and starts crocheting. She is crocheting. She's crocheting a scarf in the middle of this class. And I'm like, what am I doing right now? But it was such a good time. And, whatever. People made fun of me because that was apparently like an old people thing to do. And I'm in my 20s, like at this class, but I had such a good time, and I don't even care. I have so many like nerdy hobbies and like interests. Like, if you get me started talking about a million different things, I will not stop, because I am one of those people that like when I learn about something, I like totally dive into it. Um, but it was fun. So if you guys ever get a chance, go to a master gardener's class. Um, I won a couple of baskets too, and it was great. It was a great time. There's Sam, my beautiful friend. Thanks for tuning in, Sam. I know you've been doing a lot of stuff, but it's cold outside, so you're not outside riding your four-wheeler. So I got your attention. Um, but yeah, so let me know if you guys have any like weird hobbies, and if you ever do something weird and want somebody to go with you, let me know because I'm down to try anything once, maybe twice. It's fun. There's so many things out there. Like people always focus on like the same things, like to do self-care or to find yourself or to get an escape. Like it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be like a beach vacation or, a massage or whatever. Granted, those things are fun, but like this weekend, I'm going to an old sanatorium and I'm going to sleep on an air mattress inside the building because why not? Is it everybody's cup of tea? Absolutely not. But I love it. And it's such a good break. And it's such a good way to, rejuvenate my attitude. If I'm being honest, I've been getting like super burned out. And so it'll be so good to just have some time where I don't have to think about work or anything else. Chris said fishing, gardening, woodworking, and ghost hunting are mine. Those are all good. I mean, gardening is like, gardening is a lot harder than people will admit. Like they always make it look like it's so easy, and it's like so therapeutic. You sit there with your sun hat on and pull weeds. Like, no, it's hard work. It's hard work, but it's also worth it. Um, I did a couple of years in a row, like hardcore gardening and, canning everything that I grew and, saving the seeds from it and doing all of that. It's a lot of work, but it's also worth it. There's something magical about like, I could take a seed and I could put it in the ground and I could take care of it and I could turn it, into a vegetable and then I could can that. And then in the middle of winter, my family can have something that I grew from a teeny tiny little seed and was able to grow it and preserve it and then feed it to my family in the middle of winter. You know, um, it's magical. Darren says gardening is rewarding too. It is. It really is. And I it's hard though. I'm not gonna lie. I like one year I grew a bunch of tomatoes and I decided that I was going to make salsa and spaghetti sauce. I will not do that again. Um, my spaghetti sauce turned out terrible, and it took me like 48 hours, and I got like 7 jars, and I was like, "This is not for me." Again, there's just some things that I don't have patience for. That's one of them. But I did make a bunch of salsa, and it was so good. It was like the best salsa I've ever had, and I would get so mad because people would be like, "Oh, let me get a jar of that," or "Let me buy a jar of that." Even when they said they would buy a jar, I was like, "No, this shit took me a whole weekend. It took me months to grow it. It took me a whole weekend to make it and to can it. Like, if I had to charge you by the hour for this salsa, you'd be paying me like $1,000 a jar. No, I don't want your $5." Um, it was it was very rewarding, but I had a very hard time sharing. Uncle Tony, hello. I see you commenting from Facebook. You've been staying out of Facebook jail for a long time. I'm very proud of you. Um, and fishing, going back to Chris's comment, fishing is something that I like doing as well, but the sun does not like me too well. And usually when you're fishing, it's not in a shady spot. Um, but that I oh my gosh, we would go camping when I was a kid and I would just like as soon as I woke up, I would eat breakfast and I'd be gone. And I would just take my, little container of worms and I'd be gone all day, just fishing all day. I didn't even care about doing anything else. I just wanted to fish all the time. We just went to a lake house last summer and we had our kids there and we had all these things planned and we always were doing something. And there was one night where I told Richie, I was like, I just need to go fishing, like by myself in the quiet. Just let me go down to the dock and just fish by myself. It was nighttime, it was dark. Um, but I like when things are slow like that. Everything in this world is so quick and so loud, and fishing is just such a quiet thing. Um, and I love it. So that's another good one. And honestly, like fishing really could be free, you know, depending on like what bait you use and whatever. But that's what I try to stress to people all the time, because people will say, "Oh, I don't have money to do anything for self-care." Like you don't always need it. Um, I know we've talked about it before. Like if you go primitive camping, just go spend the night in a tent. It's like $10 a night. You bring your own food and whatever. And if you just bring food that you have at home, then you're not even buying any food. Like be creative with what you do, because there this is such a hard topic for me. Because I do feel like people who don't have money are at such a disadvantage, like for everything. And that's a whole show I could talk about. There's just so many things that people who don't have money don't get to have. And it seems like a pretty straightforward statement, but it's not just like people who don't have money don't get to have Lamborghinis. There's a lot of other things that, if you've never been in that position, then you don't understand. And I hate to think that there are people who are neglecting self-care, or not having those moments where they recharge their soul and they, ground themselves and just make themselves happy. Um, I hate to think that they're missing out on those things because they don't have money. Um, I spent a lot of time not having a ton of money. I paid my bills. I, my kids never ever went without anything, but I also like didn't have a ton of money to go and do things or just go and buy things that I wanted. And so I understand how that is. But also, like, I learned a lot of ways to do things still and to make things and whatever, so that it never felt like we were going without. You know, um, yes, all kids would probably love to go to Disney, but also kids love going to the creek and just playing there for the day. And that is equally as important, just spending time together. Um, One of my favorite stories, if you guys are friends with me on Facebook, you might have seen my super tacky paper snowflakes that I have. They're about this big and they're all different. We cut them all out. Um, I was living in the apartment. I was a single mom, and Ryan was little, and he said, it was like November, and he was like, "Mom, when are we going to decorate for Christmas?" And I had nothing, you guys, and I couldn't have even gone to the dollar store or the thrift store and gotten stuff. And yes, I have an amazing support system, and I probably could have posted on Facebook like, "Hey, I need some Christmas decorations," but I'm also stubborn, if we're being honest. I'm stubborn and I like to do everything myself. So, I had this huge stack of paper that my aunt had given me, and so I just cut out a bunch of circles and I said, we're going to make our decorations. And we folded up all these circles and we cut out these snowflakes, and every single one was different, and we spent hours doing it together. And the only ribbon I had at home was like this tacky, like bright pink ribbon, and we used those and we hung them from the ceiling in our little apartment, and there was like hundreds of them. Um, and it looked so tacky, but you know what? Ryan loved it. And he didn't think like, "Oh, wow, my mom's so poor. We're making these snowflakes." he just thought like, we're making these memories together. We're turning our house into a winter wonderland. He loved them. And then like every time he would come out in the living room, he would like run and jump so that they would, it would make wind for them to blow around. And I still have them. And I still have a lot of the originals. And over the years, we have made more and added to them. And it's such a good reminder to me, um, that things can always be worse, and also that I've made it through worse, right? There were times where I went to the grocery store with $20 and I was like, okay, cool. I have to make $20 last until payday in 2 weeks, Um, so I just feel like it's super important to have that little reminder, that I've made it through a lot. And even when things were tough, we always had a good time. We always, our house was always full of love. My kids have always been spoiled, like seriously spoiled rotten. Um, so nobody ever went without anything. But it was a struggle at times. And so, I hang these snowflakes up every year and they are so tacky. And yes, I could go out and get nicer, prettier decorations, but to me, those are so meaningful. And there's such a good reminder of how far I've come. And, you know, it's so wonderful. I love them. Um, Maybe I'll find a picture of them and post it on the show page because that was so fun. But the point is, you don't you don't have to have money or to spend money because maybe you do have money, but maybe you just don't want to spend money. Um, Especially now in the age of the internet, you can find anything. Like, just Google it. Free activities near me, free activities for kids near me. There's a lot of things that you can do. We also went to a lot of the local churches, throw like the most amazing parties. And, they do like every holiday, they have parties. They have like summer barbecues. The one church by me, they do a school supply carnival. And the first year, my middle son said, I don't want to go. Like, why would I want to go to a carnival where your prize is school supplies? And I was like, okay, that's fair. So he stayed home and I took my youngest, and it was so much fun. They had tons of games set up. And, you just, when you were done with the game, when you played the game, you would get a stamp on that little box for that game. And then at the end, if you went to go to all the things, then they would give you a backpack full of supplies. It was amazing. It was such a good, like, I was telling everybody about it because, first of all, school supplies are expensive, and especially if you have more than one kid. So there's always like cool stuff to do. And even for adults, like, you don't have to, I mean, first of all, who doesn't love going to the beach and watching a sunset or something? Go get ice cream, that's $3, and go watch the sunset. Just do something, please, to take care of yourself. Something that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be something that anybody understands. Um, we all got weird things that we like to do. I also like to go to thrift stores and garage sales. That's my jam right there. If I had like a free day and somebody was like, okay, you can do anything you want, I'd be like, let's go to garage sales. It's my favorite. But again, that's like the nerdy history part. Like, who knows what you're going to find there. But a lot of times it's not even just what you're doing, it's like who you're spending time with, which is also super important. Obviously, we should talk about that. Um, there's so much, people actually are growing up from this. There seems to be so much guilt, like, oh, I have to spend time with this person because I've known them for so long, or you're related to them or whatever. Listen, if that person doesn't make you happy, If that person's constantly bringing you down, you don't have to hang out with them. And that's a tough lesson for people to learn because you do feel bad, and that's understandable. But also, you can't like put somebody else's feelings above yours. And I'm not saying like call up somebody and be like, "Hey, you bring me down on a spiritual level. I'm never talking to you again." But, just limit your exposure to people if you can. Obviously, it's not always easy, but the other part of that is, if there are people that you have to see and maybe you can't avoid them, then, just give yourself a little pep talk before you go and just remind yourself that their opinion of you does not matter. I think, there's a lot of problems, at least in my life, that went away when I realized that, because it is like a monumental thing to come to grips with. I spent so much of my life being a people pleaser, and I still am. Like, obviously I want people to be happy, but it was getting to the point where like other people's happiness was like how I measured my own happiness. Like, if the people around me weren't happy, then I took it personally. And like I would say, I'm not a good enough friend, I'm not a good enough daughter, I'm not a good enough sister, whatever. If the people around me weren't happy, then I took offense to that. Like, it was my fault. I should have done more. And I spent so much of my life being that way. And I don't know if there was a thing that made me change that. Um, because for a long time I felt like my happiness, like to even think about my happiness or to even think about what I wanted, I thought that was so selfish. Like, how could you? Oh my God. Like, oh my God, don't even talk about that. Being happy yourself. Oh my God, what are you, a heathen? Civilized people don't care about their own happiness. It sounds super dramatic, but honestly, that's how I thought for like the longest time. And maybe it just is my husband, because he's not like that at all. Um, we're honestly like polar opposites in so many ways, which makes us so amazing together because we balance each other out. Um, he, I think maybe it was just, he used to go and do things, go to the cabin with his friends, go watch a football game, whatever. And I would just get pissy, like, oh my God, how dare he think about his own. I shouldn't even be admitting this, but I would get mad, like, how dare he think about his own happiness? Like, we have a family, we have a marriage, like, we have a house to take care of. How dare he think about his own happiness? And one day we got in a fight about it. We've been in like two fights our entire marriage, but we got in a fight about it, and I was like, you just go and do what you want, and like, I'm home. And he was like, then go do stuff. And I was like, what? What do you mean? He's like, go do stuff. If you want to go do something, go do it. And I was like, well, we have kids. And he's like, yeah, I'm aware. I'll watch them. I'm like, what? So maybe that was it. And I realized that, like, oh my God, holy shit, like, it's really cool being happy and creating my own happiness and not depending on other people to be happy for me to pretend like I'm happy. Um, it was really, it was really nice. And I never turned back. Chris said I'm in the same situation, trying to please others before making myself happy, but getting better at making myself happy first. Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't go around like treating everybody like shit. Like, I do care about other people's happiness. Um, I do try to help people whenever I can, but I stopped. putting them first because I would get so burned out just doing things for other people. I was constantly doing things for other people. So and so's moving, I got to go help them. So and so's painting, I got to go help them. So and so needs to go out, I'm going to go watch their kids. Like, I was constantly a yes girl. Like, can you help me? Yes, I can. I will be there. Tell me when. Um, and it got to the point where like I was neglecting myself. Like, I wasn't sleeping as much as I should. I wasn't taking care of my house as much as I should. I was literally putting myself so far last that it was just not good for me. And it's it's just like it is with the kids. Yes, first of all, when you are constantly a giver, you'll realize that you're surrounded by people who are constantly takers. And so, to be honest, at that point in my life, I'm not even sure who my real friends were, because it gets to a point where you're just like such a convenience to have around that you know, who knows if you were actually friends with those people. And, once you learn to say no and to put yourself first, then a lot of people are going to disappear. And that's so hard, especially when it's people that you have spent so many years just doing everything you can for that person. And then all of a sudden you decide that you're going to put yourself first and that person disappears. And you're sitting there like, after everything I've done, this person just walked away. And it doesn't say anything bad about you. It says everything bad about that person and how they were taking advantage of you, but it doesn't mean that you were a bad friend, obviously. Sam says you can't give energy to people that don't deserve or reciprocate it when you're the only one giving. It's exhausting. It absolutely is. And it's not it's not selfish to say that either, because there will be people who will say, well, you shouldn't just do things for people so that they can do something for you. That's not what it is. It's not like a tally chart system. um and I know, just because I know Sam, I know that's not what she's talking about either. It's just, you just want somebody to match your energy, basically. If you are there for somebody, you want them to match your energy and to be there for you. It's and it's not even like it's not a sliding scale. It's not a pie chart. It's nothing like that. It's just like, if I'm going to put myself out there to be there for somebody in whatever manner that you're there for them, it's just nice to know that you can depend on them as well. And sometimes it's not even like, I don't need you to actually do anything for me. I don't. Um, I just need you to be there. Like, if I need to call somebody and to vent about something, or I just need you to answer my text messages when I'm having a bad day. It's not always like, I bought you this, so you have to buy me something, or, I spent $25 on dinner, so you could take me to lunch tomorrow. It's not like that. Um, it's just having a person that that you can count on in whatever respect that is, and it being a mutual thing. Because I did learn, it was very hard. Listen, growing and going through these changes and becoming a better person yourself is sometimes so ugly and so hurtful and so heartbreaking. Um, you will learn things that you never, ever, ever wanted to learn. And that was one of the big things for me, was learning that there are people who have literally just been hanging around with me because they know that I will do everything that I can for them. And I'm talking like, I would spend my last $10 to buy somebody some groceries because they told me that they were short on cash. That person probably had more money than I did, but I would go and spend my last $10. And then it got to a point where, like, these people would know. All I have to do is mention how I'm even slightly inconvenienced, and Denise will be there to fix it. And I spent so much time and energy like fixing other people's problems, and then like something would happen to me, whether it was like when I broke up with Ryan's dad, or when my stepdad died, or there was like things that happened in my life, and the people that I had always been there for were not there. And I'm sitting there alone and needing somebody, and I didn't need somebody to give me money or to do anything at my house or paint my house or do fix my car, nothing. I didn't need any of those things. I just needed somebody to be there. And it was very hard to learn that lesson. And if you're going through that now, or if you've been through that, I'm sorry. It seems so terrible. But I now have the most amazing support system. Um, I have so many people in my life that do match energies, and they are just phenomenal people. And what's the saying? Sometimes the trash takes itself out, and it doesn't seem like it at the time, but it does get so much better. And those people that you think were your friends, who are constantly taking advantage of you, when they're not around, it's really not a loss. And I know that it doesn't seem like it at the time, and it will seem so heartbreaking, and you'll feel like you're going through like the worst thing ever, but it's so much better on the other side. It's so much better. When you get to that point, and sometimes, you know what, there's like grown ass adults who are not even at this point. Um, and sadly, there are people who will die never being at this point, because they will be so focused on like the wrong things in a friendship. They'll be focused on like having a million friends, or being friends with rich people, or whatever, like whatever they think is makes a good friend, and it's totally wrong, and they will spend their entire lives focusing on that, and they will miss out on some of the most beautiful friendships. Because honestly, if you have good friends in your life, it is life changing. Even if you just have 5 really good friends, even if you just have one, like one best friend that is there for everything, and you can count on that person, my God, it will change your life. Um, because listen, that's the whole reason I started this show, is because I feel like people just need to know that they're not alone. Um, and when you have people in your life that you can just call and just be like, "Hey, I'm having a really bad day," or "Hey, I'm, beating myself up about this," or whatever. When you have those people, you never ever feel alone, and you never feel like you're going through anything alone. Um, if I were to if something were to happen and I had no money, and I felt like I couldn't get food for my kids, I know that my good friends, all I would have to do is say, "Hey, could we come over for dinner?" They're not going to shame me for it. They're not going to ask me a bunch of questions. They're not going to say a word about it. They're just going to say, "We're having spaghetti. It'll be done at 6." That's it. And that is so important to have. So I try to tell my 19-year-old, which obviously I'm dumb. I'm mom. I don't know anything. But, I try to tell him to like really think about things, to really think about what makes that person a good friend. Because especially when you're young, like, oh, he throws really good parties. Like, okay, that does not make somebody a great friend. um, it's he's learned over time, because he has had some pretty crappy friends. But once you get to that point in your life where you realize what a good friend is, and you pick your 5 or 6 and you hold on to them tightly, it's so life changing. So make sure you're picking good friends. Um, sorry, Sam, I just kept your comment up there that whole time. But you guys make me happy. It's so good that you guys tune in and listen to me ramble. It's so important to me. I know it's just a silly little show. But this has just been such a passion of mine. I hate to think of anyone ever feeling like they're alone. And I love that you guys are so honest and you put in the comments like things that you're struggling with, and it just, I'm telling you, I know it may seem silly to you, but I get messages all the time and text messages, and people might not comment. They might not be saying things in the comments, but they are getting such good feedback from you guys. And, you know, not everybody is past the point where they don't care, because it's something that sometimes people don't ever learn it. So sometimes people are like too embarrassed to say something in the comments, but I did want to tell you guys that people have messaged me and texted me and talked to me about it, and they do appreciate you guys commenting. They always say, I'm too embarrassed to comment, but I love, so and so said this or whatever. It does mean a lot to people. So thank you guys for doing that. I am going to get off of here, but good talk as always. You guys are phenomenal. And I will talk to you guys next week. As always, I'm going to say it every time, and it's probably annoying, but I don't care. I just want you guys to know you can always reach out to the show if you want to talk about something, and you want to remain anonymous. You can message the show and say, hey, I want to talk about this, and I don't want anybody to know that I'm the one that talked about it. Fine. I have talked about a lot of things on here that I never even told you guys was something that somebody brought up. I will just find a way to work it into the show so that we can talk about it and so people can comment on it without bringing you into the story, because that is not my story to tell. But if you want to talk about something, then I'll make sure we do. Or, always you can comment. If you guys want feedback from everybody, just put it in the comments. Darren says, good chat. Good night. It's a good chat, Darren. It's always good when you come around. It's going to be summertime soon, so I'll be seeing you. But you guys have an amazing night, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you.